Hello everyone, my name is Salim and welcome to the markets breakdown analysis for Monday, the 18th of September 2023. We'll be breaking down charts and show the exact zones where price will close for potential buys or close below for potential sells as well. So looking at the previous weekly candle, the weekly closed bullish, forming weekly support around 19,700, rejecting the downside. When looking on a monthly time frame, the monthly candle is starting to retrace from this monthly support. Now, early on the month, we've mentioned how we could possibly, obviously the anticipation was to see a wick fill of the August monthly low, knowing that the monthly candle for August formed the resistance, hasn't formed the top wick, so the probability for price to continue bearish was high. And we've mentioned how we could possibly face an issue for price to continue bearish below this monthly support around 1918, 1920 area. Now we're looking at weekly. The weekly is rejecting. So since this is a rejection on the weekly to the downside, maybe we could see a retest of this weekly resistance. Looking at the daily time frame, the daily candle for Friday closed strong bullish above these previous daily resistances on the left, above this consolidation zone on the daily time frame. Now to break down the chart and looking at the 4-hour time frame. So the most recent 4-hour support we have at 1922,500. The most recent 4-hour resistance formed around 1926,700. Dropping down to the hourly time frame, now we have this hourly support around 1922,100. We can adjust the level of resistance to 1928,500. Dropping down to the 30-minute time frame, now we have this range on the hourly and the 30-minute time frame. So we have the same level of support and resistance. We're looking on a 15-minute time frame, that's the same level of support. We have a resistance on a 15-minute time frame. So now to identify the no trade zone, and the first thing we could see here for potential buys. Now, since the daily candle closed bullish, the only issue we have with the upside for price to continue bullish is the 1930 area. So this is a rejection on the daily. Clearly we can see we have two daily candles rejecting the 1930, and we also have a daily candle on Friday retracing from this 1930 area. Now, what we could do here for potential buys, we could wait for price to break and close above 1928,500, above this 1-hour resistance. For potential sells, now, if we were looking for sells, let's say, below this hourly support here, now this is a decent range for price to push below. So what we could do is we could look for sells as price break and close, I would say below 1922. Ideally is for price to break out of this range during high volume time. So potential sells could be below 1922, and this is going to be the no trade zone. And now to look for potential buys, and going back to the daily. So since the weekly closed bullish, rejecting the downside. The daily closed bullish. Now the anticipation is to see some sort of a continuation to the upside. On a weekly, the first thing we can identify here is we have this weekly resistance formed around 1940-100. Dropping down to the daily time frame, the daily we have a daily resistance formed around the same level. Looking at the 4-hour time frame, on the 4-hour time frame, we have this previous 4-hour support formed around 1935-400. Let's see what we can see on the hourly time frame. So on the hourly time frame, zooming in and looking on the left, and what we can see, we have this hourly resistance formed around 1933, or actually 1933,700. Looking at the 30-minute time frame, that's the same level of resistance, more likely will be the same on the 50-minute time frame. So I'd say the first target for buys could potentially be 1933,700, targeting this hourly resistance. The second target for buys, now we have, let's have a look on weekly, we have this weekly resistance formed around 1940-100. Looking at the daily, we have this daily resistance on the 4-hour time frame. So before a weekly resistance, I would say we could have the second target for buys at this previous 4-hour support formed around 1938,500. And now to look for potential sells, and going back to the daily. So now, since the monthly is bearish, now the only problem for price to continue bearish is we have this monthly support, and price is retracing from this monthly support. Looking on the weekly is rejecting the downside. The first thing we're going to mark up here is we're going to mark the weekly low formed last week around 1900 area, which is the strong key level on the high time frame. Dropping down to the daily, now we have a daily support formed around 1909-100. Looking at the 4-hour time frame, on the 4-hour we have this range, but we have clean traffic on the left. But let's have a look on the hourly. So on the hourly, the first thing we can identify is this decent 1 hour support formed around 1917-100, which more likely will be the same on the 5-minute time frame and the 15-minute time frame. So I'd say the first target for sales could potentially be 1917-100, targeting this hourly support. The second target for sales, now going back to the daily, let's see what we can see. We have this daily support around 1909-100. Drop it down to the 4-hour time frame. Now on the 4-hour, we have this previous 4-hour support formed, 4-hour resistance formed around 1912-800. When looking at an hourly, we have this hourly range, hourly resistance previously, but we have clean traffic all the way down to 1909 based on the daily support. Now, obviously, we can't ignore this previous 4-hour resistance. For that reason, since the price is rejecting the downside, the second target for sales could potentially be 1912-800, targeting this previous 4-hour resistance.
Dominion Markets, your trading sanctuary.